In Module 2, Lesson 14, we're going to begin rounding to the nearest 100. So in the last 2 lessons, we focused on rounding to the nearest 10. This is really similar. We can follow the same steps and use a vertical number line. And we're just going to approach it a little bit differently. And let me go to a number line and show you exactly how to do that. So when we rounded to the nearest 10, we looked at the ones place. When we round to the nearest 100, we need to look at the tens place. So the basic rule of thumb here is whenever you're rounding, you look one place to the right. So if you're rounding to the nearest 100, you look one place to the right and you look at the tens. If you're rounding to the nearest 10, you look one place to the right and you use the ones place. Kellen, my son here, is he wants to learn rounding as well, so he's in the background listening to us today. So let's draw out that place value chart here. So like hundreds, tens, ones. So if I'm rounding to the nearest 100, so if I want the nearest 100, if I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I need to look at the tens, right? If I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I need to look at the ones. So you always look one place to the right. Right. So if I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I need to look at the 10. So let's look at an example of that. Okay. So I'm going to round the number 117. If I can get the right drawing tool, there we go. 117. Now we're going to go through the same process we went through before, where I say I'm going to look at the 10 above, the 100 above and the 100 below. So 100 above and 100 below. Okay. So again, I'm going to, if I count it up by 100, the next 100 I got to would be 200. And if I counted backwards from 117 by ones, the next, or tens even, the next 100 that I got to would be 100 if I was counting down. So that means that sort of shapes my answer. My answer can only be 100 or 200 at this point. It can't be anything else. You know, a common mistake when we get to this point is kids will add 100 or subtract 100, but that's not what we're doing. We're seeing which 100 it's closest to, and the only 2 options for 117 are 100 or 200. The halfway point between those is 150. You adding some audio with a Star Wars singing there. Kellen's giving us a soundtrack to our math lesson today. So 117 is right about here. Oops, there we go, 117. So we need to look at the tens place to decide today. And just like we rounded to the nearest 10, if the tens place is a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, we're going to round down. If the tens place is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we are going to round up. And in this case, 117 right there, it is below 150. The tens place rather is a 1, which certainly falls below 5. So we're going to round down. So 117 is about 100 if I'm rounding to the nearest 100. Let's take a look at another one. We're going to do 156. So let's draw our vertical number line for that. We'll put our marks on here that we're going to label in just a moment. So 156, the 100 above. So I started counting at 156 and I counted up by ones. The next 100 I got to would be 200, just like it was last time. The 100 below, again, we're not subtracting 100. What we're doing is we're saying if we start at 156 and we count down, the next 100 we'll get to if we're counting down is 100. So that sort of frames our answer here. It can only be between 100 and 200. The halfway point is 156. 150. And 156 is like right there. It's right near that. So when we're rounding to the nearest 100, oops, I made a mistake there. If I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I look at the tens place. And if it's a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I round up. If it's a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, I round down. For the purposes of rounding to 100, this ones place right there, it doesn't matter at all. All that matters is what is the tens place. So if the tens place is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I round up, and in this case it is. So 156 rounds up to 200. 156 is about 200 if I'm rounding to the nearest 100. And you might say to yourself, well, Mr. Brown, 156 is not even close to 200. But again, we're just deciding, is it closer to 200 or is it closer to 100? And it's closer to 200 than it is to 100. Let's do another problem with a problem that is not in the 100 or 200 range. Okay, so we're going to use the number 302. So 302, we're going to find the 100 above and the 100 below. And then we'll find the halfway point as well. So 100 above. We start at 300, we count up. The next 100 we get to is 400. And we can go over here on our vertical number line and put 400. 100 below. Again, we start at 300 and we count down till we hit something that's an even 100. And in that case, it's 300. Halfway between 300 and 400 is 350. And 302 is like way down here. Probably even closer there to the 300. So again, when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we look at the tens place. That's the only place that matters right now. And we are going to decide if it's a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're going to round down. Again, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round up. Obviously, this one's a 0, so we're going to round down. So 302 is about 300, or it rounds down to 300. Let's do, we'll do like probably 1 or 2 more examples here. This is the type of work that just doing a lot of sample problems really helps reinforce good habits with these things and really helps understand exactly what we're trying to do. We have 861. So the 100 above, 100 below. So 100 above, we'd start at 861 and we could count up until we got to the next 100, and the next 100 would be 900. The 100 below would be 800, because that would be like starting at 861 and counting down until you got to the next 100. So the only 2 options for this are 800 or 900. And that's how you should approach every problem like this. You should, at the beginning, decide what are my 2 options. Because when you're rounding, that's the case. You are deciding between 2 choices. So first figure out what your 2 choices are, and then move forward. Don't make it more complicated for yourself. Don't think that there are like 7 or 8 or 9 choices. There are only 2. So figure out what those 2 choices are, and then go from there. Halfway between 800 and 900 is 850. 861 is probably right about here. When we're rounding to the nearest 100, look at the tens place. If the tens place is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round up. If it's a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, we round down. I know I sound like a broken record saying that over and over again, but it's really important. And it's really the only thing you need to know when you're rounding. So I'm going to keep saying it to you just to reinforce it. The 6 there is obviously above a 5, so we're going to round this up. So 861 is about 900. Now you'll see some word problems and stuff around this. You'll see word problems. You'll also see things like Jack got 623 kilograms of dirt delivered to his yard. about how many to the nearest 100, how many kilograms did he get? And then you have to round it, things like that. So some will just be, rather than just give you a number, they'll give you a number in a situation. And sometimes you'll actually have to do some work like we did with our tens before you figure out what you need to round to. There's one thing I want to show you before I let you go. And that's anytime you have something that's 950 to 999, what happens then? It's the only time you're going to not end up with a 3-digit number as an answer. So this is only going to happen between 950 and 999. So let's pick the number 975. Okay. 100 above, 100 below. So the 100 above, if I start at 975 and I count up, the next 100 I get is actually 1,000, because that's like saying I have 10 100s. This is saying I have 9 hundreds and 75 ones. I want to have 10 hundreds or 1,000. The 100 below, if I started at 975 and counted down, I would end up at 900. 950 is right in the middle, and 975 falls right here. Oops. All right, so 975, I look at this tens place. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I round it up, and it is. So 975 is about 1,000. So that's the only time where you're not going to end up with a 3-digit answer. We're going to end up with a 4-digit answer instead. Anytime you have something that is 950 to 999, you're going to round up to 1,000. There's no other situation where that's going to happen. Every other time you're going to end up rounding to the nearest 100, a 3-digit number. The only, I guess there's one more exception. If you have a number that's between 0 and 50, that the nearest 100 to that, or 0 and 49 rather, the nearest 100 to that would be 0 technically. So I guess in that case you have a 1-digit answer. If you have any questions about this stuff, let me know. This is very similar to the work we did with tens. And as a reminder, I'll put up the place value chart for you. 100, 10, 1. When you're rounding to the nearest 100, you're going to look at the 10. So if you are to the nearest 100, look at the tens. You always go one place to the right. So if you're going to look at the hundreds, or to round to the hundreds, you look at the nearest 10. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you round up. Forgot my apostrophe there. If it's 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, you round down. Again, that tens place is the only place that matters when you are rounding to the nearest 100. The ones place, they're there, but they don't matter, right? What matters is the tens place when you're rounding to the nearest 100. As always, ask questions if you have them, guys. Keep working hard.